are recording. Thank you all for coming today. So my name is Bonita Woods, and some of you know me and some of you are here from working with Celeste, which is awesome. I am so excited. Like, I have been literally wanting to do this workshop for over a year, and I just have not been able to get together a group that had the ability to like follow me where I wanted to take them. So I'm like so excited about today, and like just really thrilled with the work that Celeste does and that all of you who've been working with her have been doing to like create this vibration and this bass. Hi.
Sorry.
We amazingly enough forgive you and welcome you. Can we move a little room here?
We have a very high-class problem, don't we? Please come in. Thank you. So I guess let's probably to make some more. I'm just going to move this a little bit. That's fine.
I guess we do need to make some more copies.
You go, just keep on.
Okay.
Can you please give me some paper, Celeste?
Yeah. Oh,
thank you so much.
I guess it.
Okay, no more.
I guess let's kindly have some information for people who want to take notes. Great. So I'll start with telling you a little bit about myself and why this class is something that I love to teach, or I'm excited about teaching. I pretty much grew up in the Akashic Library. My brother and sister and I, when we were children, we would lucid dream together like every night. But I was the youngest, so it was probably more me like going into their dreams and annoying them and them screaming, "Get out!" Or one time when I was, I don't know, like 4 years old, I was having a nightmare and these monsters were chasing me, and I was calling to my sister, Ronnie, come help me. And she showed up and she said, you're in control of your dreams. So I'm going to show you what to do. And she's like, all you monsters, you need to stop and have a tea party now. And they're like, okay. And we all sat and had a tea party. And she told me, you're in control of your dreams. They do what you want. You don't ever have to have dreams you don't want to have. And, that's something that I've remembered, obviously, till now. So when we were kids, my brother learned to just kind of lazily drift through his dreams, almost like Aladdin on the carpet. He's a really laid-back kind of guy, and he had kind of a laid-back relationship with his dreams, and just like fun. My sister learned to structure her dreams so that they were dreams that fit with her desires and interests and never went out of those parameters. And me, I was like the wild child. So I'm like, oh, so I'm in control. I'm like queen of the dream universe. So I let my dreams go crazy. Like my normal every night dreams were more extreme than most people's like wildest, terrifying dreams because I knew nothing could harm me. And oh my God, they were like it would almost sound psychotic if I explained how my dreams were. But I later realized what we were doing when we were children was not having lucid dreams from in our brains. We were traveling through the Akashic Library. We were going to other dimensions. We were connecting with beings from other frequencies and vibrations. And my brother and sister and I just choose whom we would connect with. We would go in the Akashic Library together all the time. I'm talking multiple times a week. This was one of our favorite things to do. We had the veils between dimensions were really thin in our home, and where we lived in the woods with a beautiful creek. There were always lots of wild animals, hanging around. And I can't tell you how often we brought wild animals into the home. This is my new pet raccoon. This is my new pet baby possum. This is my new pet snake. Oh my God, so many snakes and lizards running wild in our house. But we would go into the Akashic Library together all the time.
But you didn't know you were doing that.
Well, I mean, we thought this was normal.
Oh,
Yeah. So there is a sacred pool of water in the woods behind our yard. And here's the thing, that it was only just like 2 years ago that it clicked with me, hey, wait a minute, this is not normal. Because my mother, my grandfather was a landscaper, and he was like the preferred landscaper for all the.
I didn't have enough ink. I'm going to give her this one.
Okay.
I don't need it.
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
So my grandfather was the preferred landscaper of like the modern architects, like Frank Lloyd Wright, people like that. And his landscape work was very natural. He used a lot of rocks and things like that. So we had this pond in our backyard that my brother and sister and I dug bigger and bigger every summer to get. I mean, it's not even as big as this room, but to us, it was a big pond. And whenever my mother to this day wants rocks, we go there, and always the perfect rocks are right there. Always like quartz and marbleized quartz, right there. We bring big things. The water level of this pond has never gone deeper than this. But to this day, I can go down there and get huge quartz boulders that are always the perfect ones. So like 2 years ago, I'm like, my mother wanted to do some landscaping, and the whole family's going down the pond and carrying up these big, heavy quartz boulders. I'm like, wait a minute, we've been doing this for like 55 years, and it's still always the perfect ones right here at water level. So I tapped in with my guides, and they were laughing, saying, of course, this is our gift of love to you. And as we were doing this, I looked and I noticed that this tree that had been there my whole life was missing. And I said, Mom, where's the tree? And she said, what tree? And I said, the tree that's right here. Now, the tree was bigger than this carpet. Or like, take the length of this carpet and round it. That's how big the tree was. And in its place was just empty ground, nothing growing. And I said, the tree that was always right there, you know, the really big tree with the vines of the different flowers that grew on it, and the fairies and elves that are always hanging out with the birds and the small talking mammals, and it's got the door in it that you open and you go into. And my mother looked at me and she was like, what? And I went, oh, wait a minute. This is a dimensional tree that we have been going in and out of our whole lives. And it was only when I started teaching people about going to the Akashic Library that suddenly the tree stopped appearing in front of me. Like, and it kind of, it's almost like it went into me. Mm-hmm. So for the first 52 years of my life, well, I was 2 when we moved the house. So for like 50 years of my life, literally, I saw this tree there every time I went down. And then when I started teaching this work, I stopped seeing the tree, but the energy is still there. Although now there's like little plants growing for the first time ever. In this like densely wooded forest, this area has never had anything grow. So we would go into this tree together. Although I used to sneak there on my own a lot because I enjoyed going there a lot more than my siblings. And so I would open the door to the tree and I'd go in. For me, it generally appeared one of 3 ways. The most common way would be like an old Victorian bookstore, you know, like something out of a Dickens novel sort of thing. And there were 2 men who worked there. Sometimes they're both there, sometimes just one. And you walk in, and immediately on the right, there's this old wooden desk, and with like their old-timey cash register and an old-timey typewriter and piles of books and sheets. And you go in, and it's just like all, you know, it's like the classic old bookstore from your dreams. Mm-hmm. But it would go up forever, just go up forever. And they had the ladders that slid along, and this like windy stairway that would like appear on your right on one floor and the next floor on your left, always curving upward to the next floor. And I'd walk in, and there was the librarian, and he was a tall, skinny man with like rectangular glasses that were always down on his nose. And he was in like a sort of a Victorian kind of suit, and he would say, "Oh, I have just the right book for you. Come on over here." And he would point to the book, and I would pull it out. And his assistant was this rotund, jolly fellow who was also very bald, and he wore pince nez that were usually in his pocket, and he had a pocket watch. And sometimes he would help me. Sometimes we're both there, sometimes one or the other. And sometimes I would trick them, and I'd go to pull out a book I shouldn't because I am a rascal. And as soon as I would pull out the book I shouldn't, it would be like I'd be falling for eternity with books falling all around me. You know, like Alice falling down the rabbit hole, that kind of thing. And all these books falling all around me. And then suddenly, thump, I land on the ground. And all I did was just fall down with the book I shouldn't have beside me. And the librarian would go, and the book would fly up, go into the shelf. And the book I'm supposed to pick would start glowing. And they were like, you know, you're supposed to have that one. So sometimes I would go into this bookstore, and it wouldn't be this bookstore. It would be like an old time candy shop, you know, like from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of thing. And but it'd be the same guys, and like, "Oh, we have just the candy for you in that jar there." And I open the glass jar lid, and I look inside, and the next thing you know, I'm falling into it, and I'm in an adventure. Sometimes I would go in, and it would be like an old Victorian like toy shop, and they're like, "Oh, go play with that toy," and I go play with it, and the next thing you know, we're in an adventure. Some of these were my past lives, but most of the time they were not. There's like so much in the Akashic Library, and that's what we're going to be playing with today. The other thing we'd do is we would go in there and we'd just like play. You know, this place is bigger than you can possibly imagine. And we would go and we'd play like hide and go seek and tag and go exploring. There are rooms in there where you go in and it's almost like you're on a spaceship with a big glass window looking out, but you're looking out to other dimensions. And then there's a door that you can open to go into the other dimension. So you can just like choose dimensions to look at, like you have the buttons to change the channel on a TV. There are rooms where you can go in and have, it's almost like a teleconference or a video conference where you go in and there are all these beings from all these different dimensions, frequencies, galaxies, whatnot, and they're coming in on almost like video, you know, like computer screens all around, and you can chat with them and you can all have like conversation, just like, you know, you can have group chats on specific subjects with some specific groups online. It's sort of like that. And if you go and you want to talk about something that they're like, no, this group is not for that. You have to be in whatever it is that they're interested in. Or maybe they're just like getting to know each other. You know, what are beings like elsewhere? There are, well, I'll show you in the PowerPoint in a moment. There's just like so much. The important thing to remember is it's always a vibrational connection. If you want to connect to any group or species or being, what you want to do is get your personal energy to vibe on that level, and then you can connect. If you want to go into like the Angelic Akashic Library, which is really one of the easiest ones for us to get to because we're so linked with angels, what you want to do is really connect with your guardian angel on a daily basis. Start working with the angels. Feel the vibe of the angels, and like you know, Celeste and B. Carlton, they can feel like the vibe of the different angels, the different archangels. Oh, this feels like a seraphim. Oh, it's Michael. Oh, you know, Mary and Mary are here.
We don't wave our hands like that. I'm just kidding.
I talk with my hands. When you start feeling the different vibrations, then you go to your librarians in the libraries that you normally go to and say, can you send me a loaner book from the angelic realm? Just like if you go to your local library and get a loaner book from another library and they send it over. So they feel what you're able to vibe and connect to, and they'll give you a book, and you can read the story of someone from the angelic realm who has chosen to share this story with you, with their permission. And that helps you start connecting energetically until you get to the point where you're able to go, just like when you started going into our Akashic Library, it's often in steps where you're like, angels will start coming down and hanging out with you in your library. And then they take you to the common area of their library or the area outside because they have several different buildings. And then you start going in more and more and more. So it's just about connecting in a vibration. And it's not a matter of, oh, am I good enough to this? Am I good enough to do that? It's like you don't need to sing an opera to be able to hit a specific note. You can it's just about finding the vibration and connecting with it, and then opening yourself up with a state of total trust. And that is like the hardest part, total trust.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I'm doing a past life reading for someone, and I visualize being at the front door to the Hall of Records, and I knock and I ask if I can enter on this person's behalf to view. And sometimes it's a yes, and sometimes it's not right now, or whatever it is. I'm always brought into a very similar space that looks like an old public library with like the lamps and the heavy wooden tables and chairs. But I find myself sitting at a table and their book of life is placed before me. The concept of having a librarian to talk to is kind of mind-blowing for me. And so my question to you is, do we each have our own librarian, or is there just one librarian? I know how that sounds, but...
Right. No, there are multiple librarians.
Okay.
So my librarian is not just my librarian. He is a librarian for others as well. And it is like pretty much an eternal connection. Like, okay, they're telling me it's not eternal because everyone comes and goes, but it's like really long. And then at a certain point, sometimes they get promotions or move to other tasks, just as we do. But it's a long range relationship, and they look out for a lot of people. But when you go there, you might not have been seeing them because you may not have been vibrationally
when
looking
you don't
for
know
them.
to look,
Right.
You won't see it.
Exactly.
But now that I know they're there, maybe I'll see it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And they don't always show up for me. Sometimes I go there and I'm like, well, I'm all alone. Guess I'll do what I want. And then
Naughty.
I get into so much trouble there because what's the worst that will happen? Books fall on you. They're not going to. Sometimes I have gotten physical bruises though, when they're like, you really have to stop what you're doing. So, but I will push things. I really am like, a rascal.
So should we make an attempt to connect with our librarian?
What you want
Or
to do
is there a
is open
librarian who's
yourself.
just going to greet you no matter? You know what I'm saying?
What you want to do is open yourself up and welcome them. Just welcome them. If there is anyone here to help me, show me around.
Okay.
Then they can.
Okay.
And that is everyone, this class is for you. Ask questions because we're going to cover a lot of material today. And I just want to make sure, I have enough information to cram into a 2-day, like a 12-hour workshop.
So you'll have to come back and do it again.
Yes, I would love that. So the handouts that I gave you are really not. So these are actually. Hi, are you here for the Akashic Library tours?
Yes.
Come on in.
Oh, hi. Oh, how many are you? Oh, right.
Yeah.
But it did remind me of something. I had a very bizarre, dramatic life, and I thought it was so fascinating. And then I read when I was about 20-something, Carl Jung. I found out how boring I really am compared to his internal life. And that's what reminds me of you too. What a tapestry you have.
Oh well, yeah. If anyone wants to sit on cushions on the floor, you're welcome to. Yeah. When Yeah. But if anyone wants to grab cushions and sit on the floor, that's okay too. You know, we want everyone to be comfy. When I go into, like, when past lives come forward to share their story, it's funny how often, why don't you pull it further? Yeah, there, so I can move this table back out. Oh, this is great. We're getting great video of my,
Your boobs?
yeah. Okay. So it's amazing how often when I do past life work with people, I can take them through a past life regression on their own, but more often people want me to do a past life reading because you just get a lot more. And if we can do like the whole 2-hour session, at least 3 past lives, the higher self, some of the friends who are in their soul family, sometimes people who have loved them in this life who have passed, they get, hi, come on in. Yeah. All of this information comes through, and we do, and past lives that need healing come through. We do a soul realignment and really look at what is this person's path going forward in this life to make sure they are on their soul's journey, their life path, and set themselves up for a good next life, or whatever their higher self is doing between lives.
Okay.
He's a cushion thief. This is how Chihuahuas assert their domination. So someone's life will come through and say, I had the most fascinating life. This is going to be amazing. So I'm like, ooh, what is this? And then they talk about how they like, it's like really not the most fascinating life at all. Like, my parents were well educated. I joined a monastery and I studied sacred scripts, and then I died. I'm like, what's fascinating? We're like, are you kidding? My life passion was achieved every day. Every day I lived in the state of the highest joy. You know? So I've learned that a fascinating life is not about like what you do. It's about like how you are in alignment within yourself. And even though if you have your life path set out this way and you learn your lessons, you're like, oh, wait, learn my lesson, come back to the path. Oh, learn my lesson, come back. As long as you keep coming back to your path, then you're on your path. You're not supposed to stay on your path the whole time. That would be a very boring life. It's the people who wander around. And if you hit the markers on your path, then you will feel so good about your life that you're like, this was the best. Okay, so I want to start my little PowerPoint because otherwise I'm going to start telling you about everything before we even get to it. I have a lot more PowerPoint slides than, like when I was putting it together for this, I was going nuts. Because we want to today journey to the Akashic Library. What I'm going to ask is, just even now, just start like having the top of your head relaxed and your feet relaxed. Let the top of your head feel light and tingly and open and receptive. And let your feet relax, always more relaxed than the top of your head. That way you can be a divine conduit, constantly flowing. If at any point you feel pressure or heat or pain in the top of your head, then relax your feet. It means that you're just getting you're getting too much energy here and it's getting stopped. So relax your feet and you'll go, oh, I feel better now. So feel welcome to feel like flowy and flip-floppy and goopy today as we're going forward and throughout the next few hours so that when we go into the meditation, we can get there fast. So the Akashic Library appears in different forms, as we were saying. There's, when people go into the library, pretty much everyone says when you look up, it just goes forever. But most people don't think about going into the back rooms of the library, which also goes forever. It's awesome. And, by going in and reading your book and just your book, I always say it's like going to the Library of Congress and only ever reading the book you wrote. There's so much there. It's awesome. But depending on how your vibration is, you may find the library to appear in different forms. Over here, you see we have this energy tube. This is like an area between places. It's like the place between places. And you know how sometimes if you want to go from one dimension to another dimension, like in meditation, you find yourself going through a tube or a slide? That's what these are. They're connections from one dimension to another. So sometimes when you go into the Akashic Library, you may find yourself in a field with like billions and trillions and gazillions of these around you. It's really not that different from the library. It means that you can go into anyone. So you want to go and feel the energy of them and sort of connect with them while you're moving around. And you can walk or float or just transport, you know, whatever your mind conceives for travel. And you'll find the one that's calling to you or resonates. Just go into it, and the next thing you know, you're like, woo, on this tube slide, and you land in a place, which is very much like going into a past life. Some people find like they're just like, they find themselves in a place of light and glitter and just like beautiful energy. That can also be how you're connecting with the library. We most commonly connect with a library as a library because that's what we think of. But people have been going in the Akashic Library since we were extremely primitive beings. Animals go into there, they don't see it as a library. So, well, that's what I just said. You know, sky space is what Akasha means. And scientists are now actually doing fascinating research, but let's not get. One of the fun things about going in the Akashic Library is you can also learn about your relationships with other people who are either in your life that's life or not in your life at all. And I know Celeste has a lot of fun stories. It's just like wonderful when you help people connect on soul levels, that great feeling. And I'll tell you, anytime you're feeling like, you know, blue or depressed or whatever, take a quick trip to the library, you know, and have them give you a story that will perk you up. But make sure that you tell them one that perks me up. Like, don't say, oh, I want to do a quick fun trip to the library, because then they'll give you something fun for them, which might be kind of traumatizing for you. So, yeah.
Define fun. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we think of going into the library as going into it, but we're always connected to it. We're always connected to Earth. We're always connected to Source, you know, Gaia, Source, Earth, the universe, the other dimensions. We're always connected. And one way to really strengthen your connection and get your vibe up there is to really work on your connection of like the hora lines, the lines of energy that are flowing through you, connecting you to elsewhere. Because, you know, it's like going into the internet. You know, it's an energetic place with information. We have this energy that's flowing into us that connects us to places and beings that we care about. So the more you connect with that, the easier it is to connect into the library. And that's also connecting into Earth as well. The more you connect, work with Gaia and work as a divine conduit to Earth, the more you realize that Earth energy is not just about this Earth, it's about all physical energy magic. And then you can say, you know what, I want to go to Saturn. And you go through Gaia energy to go to Saturn and see what's going on there. Or you can connect with like eternal beings that are slumbering in a different frequency or dimension within our planet. Like, there's a lot. So the classic way of going into the library, and Celeste does this meditation beautifully, is to start out like in a gorgeous garden, and you go on a wonderful meandering path. And on this path, you know, you're paying attention to the details. The terrain of your path will change, the vista of the garden around you, the aromas, the feeling of the sun on your skin, and you talk about clouds going by, it gets a little cooler, or the breeze, and you go up paths, down paths, into woods, to a body of water, eventually up steps, going up, and you stop like every 10 steps, you stop at a landing, but after about, like 50 steps, you've gone from Earth all the way to the gateway of the library. All of this is to connect you with getting your senses in tune with receiving information on all levels. Whenever we talk about seeing, it's not just like seeing like this, it's receiving information. Oftentimes when I say, I see this, I'm not actually seeing anything. The information is either downloading into my head as a fully encompassed memory, or someone's like whispering information in my ear, or I'm just like sensing the truth of it. Or so the word seeing is about receiving information. And the more ways you can receive information, the more you can see on a level above just eyes. Normally you stand in the doorway of the library. Usually we see it as ancient doors. Sometimes when I'm taking people on a tour, a walkway to the library, we went to the garden. We'll be in like some sort of exotic, like you're in an Italian city, and keep going into more and more ancient parts of the city until finally you're at the doorway of the library. So it doesn't, but you always want to take people up and down and around and meandering. Some people see the door of the library as being like a stargate. So don't worry if what you see or experience is not what everyone else sees and experiences. Most people, when they go into the library, they see this ancient, archaic library, something that just feels grand. Generally, there will be like ancient. I forgot to turn on your power strip. It's plugged in. What do they say? It's plugged in, but there's no one.
Yeah, the lights are on and nobody's home.
Yeah. Usually, there's like comfortable furniture or ancient furniture. Like, pay attention to how the library looks for you, because a lot of times that will show you, one, where your vibration is at, and two, what it is that your soul is, directing you to. When you pull out the book, it might be the book, it might be a crystal orb, it might be a computer, it might be a newspaper. I've seen people have experiences where when they read someone's past life, they're actually reading a newspaper article and, or a magazine article. So be aware that it's not always about going in and experiencing it.
Today, for the first time, I did one this morning. For the very first time, they took me to the back of what I perceived to be the back wall of the library, and there was a giant picture window. And as I was seated at the table, I was aware that there was a book placed in front of me, but they just wanted me to look out the window, and then it was like watching a movie. That was a first, and I've been doing this a long time, so they're changing it up. They knew I'd be here.
Yeah, and I love that.
They gave me a Bonita moment is what they did.
Yeah. It's like it's like technicolor stereophonic sound.
Yeah.
Just like,
I was like, I didn't know they had windows here.
Yeah.
It was like the things that you think of.
It's great. It's like all the majesty of watching like Gone with the Wind or something like.
Yeah, it's cinematic. It's
Yeah.
cinematic.
Yeah, that is great. I'm so glad. Yeah. Another way that I will access the Akashic Library is I'll connect with my higher self, or the higher self of whomever I'm doing a reading for. I'll imagine this person in the higher state as a multifaceted crystal. And as you see, there are a lot of different ways you can be a multifaceted crystal. Each facet is one of the lives of that person. These lives can connect to each other through the crystal, just like you can point a light through one facet of the crystal and it will go through because of the internal crystalline structure. There may be more lives within the crystalline structure, or relationship points. This is also like how I can explain when past lives and future lives are hanging out talking with me. I'm like, well, we're all facets on a crystal, so of course we can't. It's not a linear timeline. By doing the crystalline experience, you can actually have great clarity of the vision that you have and wonderful connection with these past lives. Sometimes I will be with this crystal in a sacred cave, and I'll invite past lives to come out, multiple ones who wish to talk about an issue that someone's having with the present life. And we'll sit, allowing the crystal to just be glowing as though it's sacred fire, or it will be one of the member, but it'll be like this mothership member, just like sending love energy to us as we're talking together about who is connected how with whatever issue the person is having in the present life. So this is a way of accessing the Akashic Library for a specific purpose. Does everyone understand that? Because I know that's a little far out there. One of my favorite ways to access the library is going up Spirit Mountain. Every person has a sacred mountain for yourself. And for one person, it may be an Arctic mountain. For another, it may be a tropical mountain. It may change for you, but it's a mountain that your soul can go and play on. And again, we'll go on the journey. We go on this journey up the mountain. Sometimes we'll go into a cave and go up. Sometimes we're just like traversing. We make sure we go into a healing, moss-covered forest and swim in a sacred pool. Like you do a lot of cleansing and releasing and raising your vibration. And you go up the mountain. And when you reach the top of the mountain, enjoy the vista all around you. And what you can do is the vista is your previous lives. So you can even fly off with the clouds looking over. And you know how like when you're on an airplane and you can see the towns and the farms and the housing communities, those are your previous lives, but they're not in a geographic formation. It's which lives feel energetically closer to you in this life. So when you look down, you might see like 1,000 different properties, but when you focus in on one, it's like Google Earth, then you can even get down to street level. And by doing this, you can just sort of float around and get a nice overview of your past lives. And then you can focus in, or you can see which lives want to present what to you at a glance. You know, you can take in 10 lives in 10 minutes or whatever. And this is, since you're at a higher perspective, there's really no emotional connection. But then later, when you go into the regular Akashic Library, you can call to any of these lives and they can give you a deeper perspective of what happened.
May I ask you?
Yes.
Celeste was the first person I ever saw who did a meditation and was writing stuff down. Do you write while you're visiting these? Or is this all the things you're remembering and later you want to call on a particular past life to visit?
I record because I'm super dyslexic and my handwriting is terrible. And I just get so into it that I wouldn't remember to write down anyway.
So you speak it as you experience it.
Yeah.
And I type it as I experience it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. But I was born in this life with full memory of my total existence from when I was a spark in the cone of inception to everything that I had before I started incarnating on Earth. I know what's ahead for me. Because when you're outside of this timeline, life is not 3D and it's not linear. So it's more like, you know, you're in a house and you move from room to room, or, you know, I'm a retired chef. So when we're in a kitchen, moving around, making sure breakfast, lunch, dinner, desserts are all happening at once, to us, it's one thing.
Do we have simultaneous incarnations?
I'm actually very good friends with someone else who's of my same soul. So yeah, you can be, when you come to life, keep in mind our higher state of being is pure energy, and energy cannot be portioned out to, you know, 100% gone. You just keep getting more energy. So it's very common that people will be in more than one body at once.
It's more efficient for learning. Is it
Mhm.
not?
And there's different ways. You can be like in this life, I'm mostly me. I got a few splinters and shards from
That's a t-shirt
others.
waiting to happen.
It's like I'm mostly me. I like that. But you can send a splinter of your soul with someone, a soul shard, by contract. This is not like something you do a soul retrieval ceremony for. By contract to help them with their journey, or to learn from them, or just because you love them and you want to hang out.
Is that what a twin flame is, or is it?
That's all different. And that's someone who was born with you when you were originally born and separated. Like we're all, many of us, not all of us, many of us are twins, and we're born and separated into divine
But we are
feminine.
not part of the same spark, right?
Yeah, of the same spark.
We are.
Yeah, you and your twin flame are generally of the same spark.
So it's not the same with what you just said with the soul.
No, that's if you're going to life and you're going up against a challenge that you've tried a few times and you're just like not getting it. And you know that I did that very well before. You might say, Bonita, can you give me a splinter of your soul so that when I go up against this challenge, I have your help? And you might go and get a few people who have done well with it saying, please help me out. And then someone else might say, oh, you're going up on that challenge. I'm going to do that challenge next. Can I send a splinter of my soul with you so that I.
But
Yeah.
before we descend, right? It's
Yes.
happening. Not like in this life I can ask them to help me out.
Well,
When we are on a soul level and before we descend on a different lifetime, we can do that, right?
well, you do it when you are planning to come to life. But yes, there are. I have done ceremonies to help people get shards of souls within them to help them with what's going forward in their lives. But that is a very serious ceremony because you are literally adding to whom you are, which
Right.
changes you.
Right.
It's not something you do trivially,
So for the most part, it's by contract prior to incarnation.
usually. But I have done ceremony. It's a shamanic ceremony where you ask if others, and it's on the soul level. You don't ask them like, "Hey, Celeste, can I have a portion of your soul?" I mean, if you wanted a portion of her soul, you would have to do that and get her permission, but that's really an awkward thing to do. Usually, you're going to ask for a splinter of a
You
soul
want a piece
of.
of me?
Like usually, you're going to say, "Hey, Nelson Mandela, can I have a splinter of your soul to help me because I've become an advocate for social justice?" And while you're at it, Martin Luther King, Gandhi,
Oh, I
Jesus.
see. So in a way we can access that from the ones that already passed.
Yes,
Oh,
but
wow,
it's not something you do. It's like getting a tattoo on your face. You know, you don't just do it for giggles.
And I would think you would have to already be operating at a vibrational level that's high enough to be able to access the granted permission and incorporate the energy of someone like Mandela, no?
You would get someone like me to do the ceremony with you, and I will be the conduit to help you with it.
But I'm saying if your normal state of being is not at that vibrational level of someone like the Mandela, Master
Right.
Soul, then I would think that would not work well.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, you do need to have pure intention, and pure intention raises your vibration. So, at the top of Spirit Mountain, there is always a tree of life. And you know the slide I showed earlier that had the tree that is like spirit source above, Gaia below, and divine connection. The tree of life connects us to all. It's what makes us divine conduits. When you're at the top of Spirit Mountain, and again, it's the same as like the wonderful meditation that I once got to experience with Celeste. That's like one of my favorites of going on this wonderful spirit journey and ending up at the Akashic Library, going up Spirit Mountain at the Tree of Life, which is, by the way, like my childhood tree that I talked about. And you can go into the Tree of Life. and there is your library. One of the things that I love to do is I'll go to the top of Spirit Mountain and I'll kind of fly around, look at the vista, see which lives are energetically connected to me at this moment. And then I'll go back to the top of the mountain. I'll invite anyone who wants to come and join me for a picnic. So many of my past lives, it might be one or two, sometimes it's like 1,000, will show up and we have a picnic together. And they're chatting with me, they're chatting with each other. You know, it's like having a party. And when I'm ready, I'll say, I'm going into the library. Does anyone want to go in with me? Sometimes no one will. Sometimes one life will. Sometimes a few lives will go in. And they can go in for different purposes. They can go in because they want to journey with you. They want to show you their life. They can go in because they just want to hang out in the library and chat with you a bit before you leave, or they can go in because they want to read another book for themselves. You know, there's all different reasons why they'll be there. So, so you'll be amazed with some of the beings who show up, because keep in mind, not all of us incarnate every life as a human. And when you're at the top of Spirit Mountain, you're inviting all of your lives, which may be in other dimensions. Like, I was an angel for a while. I didn't know that. But sometimes those who truly loved you, that are a very high frequency, may show up and say, no, you weren't me, but we were good friends when you were in that life, and I just wanted to see you again. So it can be quite a rumpus. So I just love these pictures. These are all taken, yeah, they're obviously, I grabbed them all off the internet. So you go into the Tree of Life, and the library in there, I know, aren't they great? It can look completely different every time you go in. Just like when you go into the Great Library as we normally see it. But if you're going in from Spirit Mountain, be ready for something that's a little more like out of fairy tales or Winnie the Pooh, or your librarians may appear as magical woodland creatures, or it may really have a lot of Gaia energy strong in it. This is, if you want to go in the Akashic Library for traveling to the lower realm, you know, where the animal spirits live and nature magic resides, that's a good way to get there for that kind of journey. So I just love these pictures. Their library might be different every time you go in, just as the books you pull out may be different each time. And I obviously got carried away with pictures. When you're in the Akashic Library, things that you can look at are soul contracts. You can say to your librarians, you don't need to just see what they show you. You can ask them, I want to know about soul contracts that I have in this life, or I want to know about soul contracts I had in a past life to learn how to understand soul contracts. You know, sometimes we think, wow, why did I contract for this really terrible thing to happen in my life? And then you look at your life path and go, oh, no, that was just like a coincidence that someone crossed my path. And I knew them in a past life, so they felt familiar, so it felt like they should be in my life, but actually they shouldn't have been, and that was just really bad, and there was no lesson to learn but get them out of there. Like, you know, you can go in the library and say, show me lives where I was a soul shard in someone else. And you'll find when you visit that life, it's very different from when you're a primary in a life, because you will only really see the part that you were connected with. So, and it may seem more like sepia tones or like an old timey movie, or, you know, it will have like an archaic feeling to it. And you'll feel like, I know there is so much more I don't have access to, because your existence in that life was not relevant to anything but what you're experiencing. So don't feel like you're doing it wrong if you only get a little bit. That may be, that's what you're in. You can find out if your soul is currently divided in other bodies at the moment. Like I said, I met someone, and the first time I met him, I'm like, this cannot be my soulmate. There's no way. But he just felt so powerfully like that. But he's like 30 years younger than me. I'm like, I'm not gonna date any man younger than my children. That's just not gonna happen.
It's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
The reason why I asked that question about simultaneous incarnation is because often, really, really often, in my sleep, I am in a scenario where I feel like I'm with versions of the people that are in my life now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look exactly the same, but I know them to be the same sort of signature, energetic signature and role.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in a different place, and it's vivid, and it's like a whole lifetime playing out, but it's not, it doesn't feel like it's here and now. So is it possible not only to incarnate in you know what I mean, multiple dimension as well as on Earth?
So there are several reasons why you could be having that.
And it happens all the time, Bonita, almost every night. It's making me crazy.
Yes, and you can, okay, so let me explain what can be going on and then what you can do about it. What could be going on is either you're saying, there's something I feel the need to do. And, you know, Celeste, you're not just here for your life purpose, you're here to help the vibration of the planet. Everyone in this room, by the way, the reason why you're so connected is you're helping raise the vibration of the planet. But Celeste in particular, and sorry for calling you out on this, chose to come to Earth to be a teacher, a mentor, and to send loving vibrational energy through her and teach so many people and impact the planet on a huge level. And she has things coming ahead for her that are really amazing, and will have a huge impact. Not just the direct impact, but the ripple effect from all the work you're doing here. It's just going to be really, like at the end of your life, when you do your life review, you're going to be blown away by the effect you've had. What they're telling me in this life, for you to do this, you chose to be born in multiple places around the world to do this exact same thing. Okay, so you are living this.
Tired.
Yeah. But here's the thing, you are basically creating a Celeste mandala around the world.
Oh my God.
And you are feeding this mandala, but you can also let the mandala feed you by connecting and tapping in. So this is, and that's how you know this is the truth. And I'm tearing up too, so I know this is the truth. So start tapping into this. Release your ego that says, no, that's not me, or Bonita's. Feel the truth of it. Become one with the truth. And let this be part of your daily energy. For you, it's the blocking this that's exhausting you. But fall backwards into it, it'll catch you. Okay. And there will be tears today. Everyone get used to it. Everyone's going to, and that's when the tears come, let them come, because this is the truth, and blocked energy has to come out. The other reason why people dream sometimes of their life but not their life is you're seeing all the possible paths and the way things could be going. And sometimes your higher self is letting you know, hey, you can do this, or that. And especially if you're someone who likes to plan ahead, they're going to be giving you all the possible scenarios while you're sleeping, so that then when you make your decisions, you're making from an informed place. This is exhausting. I do not recommend it. It is absolutely exhausting. Another thing you can do is a general call out to all souls. And this is, you go in the library and you're like, hey, anyone who has a message for me, anyone who's connected with me, anyone who I was or who was with me at any time, who wishes to be here now, come forward. Let's see what the deal is. And, you know, things like, why try to do everything out of your brain when you got all these amazing brains out there who can make things happen? Okay, the other thing is, in the Akashic Library, you can really learn about your connections. And in a moment we'll talk about the cloud network and the bardo, where this is really relevant. People come into your lives that you have a strong chemistry with, and they challenge you. They can be there because you have a contract, but if they're not helping you, if they're not making you achieve your best, if they're keeping you held back, they're probably not supposed to be in your life, or they came into your life so that you could feel the challenge of kicking them out. Anyone who makes you feel bad or who brings you harm to your being, then you must release them from your life. That is the only purpose they would serve. And many times we think that they're in our lives so that we learn humility or learn to tolerate abuse or whatever, and they're not even supposed to be in your life at all. So let them go. People who come into your life who see, and you see the potential within them, but they're not reaching their potential. And they may even resent you for the fact that you see their potential and that you demand too much of them. Let these people go, or keep them at the distance of relationship that their state of being and their vibration can support between the two of you. It's a beautiful ring, though. Right. Do not let your soul suffer to maintain a relationship. It's like the most important thing. Yes, these people are never part of your soul family unless they agreed to come into your life for a reason of kicking you into a different state of being. Like I had a life where this guy, like, basically raped me and seduced me. This was like a long time ago, Henry VIII time. And then, I went down a really bad road of wanton sluttiness, got totally pregnant. My dad found out, he beat me within an inch of my life, kicked me out of the house. So you'd think, now I'm like homeless in the middle of nowhere, about to have a baby. It was like awful. So you'd think, oh, wow, these guys are terrible. Those were soul contracted because the experiences I had after that caused me to become someone who became a champion for people. Okay. However, if I had stayed with them and tolerated the abuse, I never would have finished my soul contract to become a champion. Yeah, and I have that whole life on my website video. It's like a half-hour long. It's really fun to watch. Totally recommend. Okay, soulmates are not just two people who love each other for all time. We have those, but we also have entire soul families. Soul families who look out for you. And yes.
Only one question, just to clarify something. When you say soulmates, we don't refer only like man, woman. Can be woman, woman too, man, and etc. Hence why the homosexuality, right?
Our higher state of being doesn't really care about male, female.
Yeah, okay.
Any more than we care about watching fish poop in an aquarium. They really don't care.
And it's not always romantic.
Exactly. So your twin flames, your soulmates, these are different. And there's so many relationships, so many connections that are far and above. And the more you go into the library, the more you can explore these. So once again, I say just like open your mind, be receptive to whatever comes through, and things you could never have imagined will show themselves to you. Okay. So I do want to say one thing about the Bardo and the cloud network. I have a few more slides on the cloud, and then I want us to do a meditation. So be light an area in your head. The cloud network is basically that you go up into the clouds, but you'll see that there are like, you become one with the clouds, drifting through the clouds, and you see that there's like electricity, like, when you get that summer heat storm and the clouds are just, it's like you're in the middle of that, but there's also like colored lights, like LED lights going around, and you can tap into this. It's pure information. You can tap into it any which way you want, either being directly tapped in or having information come to you with questions that you ask. So this, sometimes people say, I tried to get in the library, but I was just in the fog and there was electricity. I got scared, so I left. I'm like, no, that was it. That was it. You were in the cloud network. That's one form of the library. So the other thing is the Bardo, the Twilight Realm. This is the land between physical and spiritual. It's like this eternal twilight place. It feels very high, like you're viewed on the top of the tallest mountain in some other realm of being. When you are in the Bardo, anyone you call to you is contracted on a soul level to appear before you. So, if I call Mary, Mary herself will not show up, but her soul state of this life will show up. And over there, you can renegotiate relationships. You can do cord cuttings, which is where you basically, all the lines of energy that connect to you, you cut through them. Lines of love can never be cut. They can only be beautifully purified, magnified, increased. It's only non-love that gets severed. Cord cutting ceremonies are amazing. It's like one of my favorites to do. Whenever my whole family gets together for a reunion, I go to the Bardo, do a cord cutting for my whole family, and we get along great. Yes.
On the cloud, we're talking about the cloud as in computers. But when you're in that electrical field and you're asking for information, is that information about persons or animals, or is it
Whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Any kind of knowledge?
Just like going into the library. Any question you have, they will answer. So cleaning your soul connections helps keep you open to a positive future. And this is why sometimes when you're trying to go in the library, you end up in the Twilight Realm. You're like, what am I doing here? Mm-hmm. They want you to clean your energy. There may be things that are keeping your vibration down. So they want you to clean your energy. And then the version of the Akashic Library that usually comes from the Twilight Realm, it's the one where you like rise up and you're like in the universe, surrounded by all the galaxies and everything, and you're in an ancient Greek temple. And you go in and you hold out your hands, and an orb will float down into your hands, and that's your book. So that's really fun. Because, remember, wherever you go, when you go in the library, no matter what words are coming out of my mouth, explore where you are. Don't try to go somewhere else. Don't go against what's happening in here, because this is a heart relationship, not an analytical brain micro-controlling relationship. But I'll tell you, if you end up in like this ancient temple, for me it's usually Greek, but it can be any kind of ancient temple. And it can be in the clouds or on a high, like Mount Olympus, or in the universe. Just get ready for something amazing. Okay, we're not going to do soul shards right now. So what I would...
Are you going to send us this presentation, or it's not?
This presentation will end up being on my website, so I'm not going to send it out now. But I do have... I'm going to give you all the video of what we're talking about. The pictures aren't as important as the experience we're having. Right, so what I would like to do now is give everyone like 3 minutes, go to the bathroom or stretch. The whole time, keep the top of your head light and your feet gloopy.
Are we meditating now?
And then we're going to do, and then we'll do a meditation.
Okay. I don't want to.
Yeah, me neither.